and black and white thing going on from the beginning. And I can't tell you what a tantrum I had to have to make sure I got some of these sprayed edges. Unfortunately, I think all the sprayed edges have sold out now, and they're onto white ones, but I tried my best.
Wow, that is detail.
And you know, people who have a lot of my books know I always have a ribbon. In How to Eat, I had 2 ribbons, and the designer said, does she know it's not the Bible? And I felt, well... so for this book, I don't know if any of you have come across a food writer called Olia Hercules. She wrote a book called Mamushka, which is her background in Ukrainian food, and she's just written a book called, obviously it's gone out of my head, I say Caucasus, which is about Georgian food. And I went to her house. She's a young food writer, and I like to encourage the young and up and coming, although she's more than that, but I just feel that people sometimes get defensive and not very generous with people who are starting in the same field. And I always think, you know, that all of us get knocked off our perch sooner or later, and I'd rather be knocked off by a talented person. So
is she the next Nigella?
No, she's very good. No. There are lots of young food writers that I try and encourage and help. And I write about other food books on my website. And I think that if you like food, you like sharing. And therefore, I want to share my enthusiasms for other food books too. It's all part of the same thing. I was at Olia's flat, and she cooked for me. And there was the most beautiful bowls, and she said, I got them from somewhere called Apasuka in Hungary. So I tried to get them, and I've got some of the china in the book. And then I loved it so much, and I like this idea of having this pattern, rather like an old-fashioned book. But also, I've never had no jacket before. No, it's very bad English. I have, you know, all my books have jackets, except the redesigned ones. But they designed me, the people from Hungary designed me my own pattern to go on the book, and that was wonderful. I like the idea that having a book cover that is inspired by plates.
And it's tactile too. It feels beautiful, as a lovely book should.
Yes, but every element is so important. When I cook, I feel that the feel of everything is so important, the look of it, when I lay a table, because I feel in a way it's those everyday things that if you get pleasure out of them can transform a minute, a second, and that's important. What I should say, which I don't think I have said up till now, which is I actually have made some of the plates in this book too. I went on a pottery course with among some friends of mine, one of whom is Yotam Ottolenghi. And he was much better at the pottery than me, I can tell you. I had visions that I was just going to be a potter, but then I tried it, and obviously I wasn't going to be a potter. The wheel defeated me. I thought everyone said it's like cooking. It's not. If something goes wrong when you cook, you can still eat it. But, you know, when you just got an amorphous mound of clay, it went. But anyway, so I did do. So I made stuff. I started doing the stuff when you roll it out, which is a bit more like baking, I suppose.
Oh,
and I like that, and I'm trying to find
the sausage shape around.
Well, I couldn't do the coils either. That was too hard too. But I did ones when you roll it like that and you press it, and I did one I'm trying to find. But I did it when I put it through a roller, and then I found some nylon shopping basket net mesh thing and did a pattern.
For the texture.
And
lovely.
I don't know quite, it's actually pretty hideous, but you know when things are when things are really so ugly you almost think they could be beautiful. Anyway, so I don't know if you can see, but that is one of my artworks.
Oh, lovely. Fantastic.
That's one of my plates. And I did make some very bad bowls, and it made me laugh really, because when my children were small, they would come back with, you know, very badly made bits of pottery from school, and I'd say, that is so wonderful. And now I'm coming back and saying to them, hey, and they're going, and one was very bad. My daughter said, I could tell that was your one. So, you know, and I now feel it's so good, because in this day and age, if something is misshapen, you just say it's organic.
Yes.
It's an organic shape.
Talking about tables and the title of the book, tables knit people together, don't they? They're more than just somewhere to go and eat. They're the lifeblood of a family, and family cooking is all important. So tell me your earliest memory of being at a table.
Well, I suppose my earliest memory of being at a table is a table I didn't really like being at, and I think I've spoken about this before. When I was a child, this blue formica table, which I remember as huge, and I suppose it must have been just a regular table, but my memory of it was this huge expanse, like a swimming pool. But I don't think they made these huge blue formica tables, so I can only presume it was a regular size. I was very small. But I didn't like eating, and I didn't really enjoy being there. It was always a bit fraught. But nevertheless, so many of my memories also are not just about eating at the table. My brother instigated this game, which you had a teacup in the middle, and you had to throw tea bags. And to see who could get the
wet
most,
tea bags.
No, dry ones.
Oh, right.
No, wet ones are much easier because they've got weight.
Yeah.
It's much harder to make a dry tea bag, to steer it and guide it. Very, very useful talents we have in my family. But I think the thing is that there's something about particular tables that remind me, and it's almost like a strange sort of picture. If I think about being at my grandparents' house, my paternal grandparents, I automatically remember that very, very high-polished brown wood that was very of the period, really. That is, you can't imagine ever being, allowed to spill anything on it, and placemats and all sorts of that sort of it was rather formal. They had a sideboard, and when I think of that, I always think of a proper roast dinner, and that, and my grandfather, in fact, all of us at home, we always used to talk about red gravy because they didn't want to say, blood. Because but of course, yes, red gravy, which I didn't want then. Now, now I eat meat incredibly underdone, but then it frightened me.
Have your taste changed over the many years in food?
Well, they've changed since I was a child. Although I've always, even as a child who didn't like eating, I've always adored spinach.
Really?
I know, it's strange, isn't it? I haven't, my taste hasn't changed an awful lot, because from starting off as someone who ate virtually nothing or liked eating very few things, I rapidly became someone who really ate everything, and I haven't restricted that. As I get older, things do interrupt my eating pleasure. Can't eat raw onions. But in fact, I never really was a raw onion person unless I soaked the onions first, which I often do in lime juice or vinegar, which makes it, which means I can. So I think that I've always had a taste for sour food and for spicy food. And I suppose rather than changing, I'm lucky enough, and this is, you'll, I suppose, understand that thrill of finding more foods that come into that category as I have the occasion to eat more. And I suppose that's always nice that I can eat more. But I think I'm someone who likes to try all sorts of food. So I don't feel I suddenly want to eat
more vegetables, more...
Well, I've always eaten a lot of vegetables.
Yeah.
I've always eaten a lot of vegetables. I like salt a lot. People do remark on I like a lot of salt, but I always say in my defence, not that I want to sound remotely defensive, in my defence, I have low blood pressure, which means I have to eat a lot of salt. And I don't eat much processed food, so that I use Maldon salt, or when I'm here, I love using the, wonderful Murray River salt or Tasmanian salt, and there's such wonderful salts in all the countries you go to if you, search for it. And so if it's real salt and I haven't got, I don't know what, injected into the food I eat, then I'm fine. I mean, I say I don't eat much processed food. To some extent, cooking is a form of process, is a process. If you eat more or less anything, you are eating processed food, but the processes are not industrial.
Indeed. Tell me, when you introduce golden egg curry in this latest book, you say it's very far removed from the egg curries I remember from my early youth and would much prefer to forget. Were there terrible meals? I believe your mother was a great cook.
My mother was a good cook, but of course there were some terrible meals. And actually, although but sometimes I have a fondness for them. So but the egg curry in particular was, people would hard boil an egg and leave it too long so it would get those rings, greeny grey rings going round. I don't mean leave it too long that it's bad, it's just that you not peel it straight away. And the curry sauce, people would put things like bananas in curry sauce when I was young.
Oh my
and things like that, I know. And sometimes I think, do you know, maybe I should just try it like that again. You know, people put sultanas and bananas and things like that in curry. There is a rather good curried baked bean, I don't know if I've spoken this before, that I used to have with my grandmother, curried baked beans with sultanas in. Strangely delicious.
It must be your Vegemite. Because it really...
I love Vegemite too. I'm a
Oh, do you
traitor.
really?
I'm a traitor to my Marmite eating country.
Fantastic. Oh, that's really good. Fantastic. Tell me, generally, is coming up with recipes easy?
I think it would be hard if I sat down and thought, right, I've got to come up with a recipe. But in a way, I tend to come up with recipes because I'm cooking, and I cook something that I like, and then it becomes a recipe. The first time I do it, it's just because I'm opening, you know, my fridge and seeing what I've got. The fridge forage remains for me very creative, because you've just got to think on your feet and come up with something, and it's often quite fast. And so I like that. I find I am greedy, so I'm always thinking about, you know, what I was going to eat. Today, I did have a massage earlier, a hot stone massage, and I thought that a bit mad, really, because no one really relaxes before they go on a stage. But I thought I'd relax, and instead I was lying there thinking, I think if I put some dried porcini mushrooms in my NutriBullet and turned it into, with a bit of salt, turned it into like a porcini
Powder.
salt, then mixed it with butter, and then put it in between the breast and the skin of a chicken before I roasted it. Then I thought, no, she was placing stones, and I thought, no, actually, it's going to be too much bother to put it in between the breast and the skin. Why don't I just put it on top? And then I can maybe put some sage inside the chicken. And I thought, I don't know that I'm meant to be lying here doing recipes, but
That
I
sounds
was.
delicious,
So
though.
it does, doesn't it? But the thing is, so I suppose I can't help but, in an idle moment, just think about what I could be eating. And I also get incredible ideas for recipes when I'm traveling. And it's not always completely linear. So I don't go to a restaurant and think, I'm going to copy that and do it at home. I sometimes think, what a fantastic pairing of ingredients. And I'd like to see what I can do in a more manageable way. And sometimes it could be just seeing something great as I walk past a food shop and thinking, I want to use...
But it's a
I would do that.
continual thought process.
I can't help it. That's how my mind works. And I also feel, when I finish a book and I have stopped measuring and weighing, I get this fizzing up of liberation. Because much as I really enjoy doing a book, it isn't quite in my personality to be writing down everything I do, and I do it, but when I'm suddenly let off the leash and I can just cook without thinking, sometimes it sort of unlocks a bit as well. But I find even the if you like, the straitjacket of having to obey my own recipes can be fruitful as well, in the sense that I get certain ingredients for a recipe, I have them lying about the house, and unlike, you see, I always repeat certain ingredients in my books a lot, because I don't want to go out shopping for an ingredient I only use for one recipe, and I don't presume anyone else does. So I'm always thinking a bit like that. So sometimes it's a bit as if sometimes freedom can be very inspiring, but actually constraints. I think I read about this in my first book. You know, it's the constraints that make the form, and having to think, I've got these ingredients in the house now, I have to use them, that's what I'm going to cook with.
But it sounds like you have a lot